You're watching From the Heart with John Willard.
Hi friends, John Willard here, the gentleman poet, storyteller, and Naka contributor, back for another show and more bone-chilling truth. Friends, we know it's spring in the Ozarks. The calendar says so. Not many days ago here at Naka, we were out on a frosty morning with a fall bouquet of bittersweet. If you can't load up and come here, then come. Take the journey with me. This is my favorite time of the year. When I start seeing new life pop up along the streams, in the woods, across the fields, sleeping beneath the Ozarks floor, are spring wildflowers waiting to emerge. On a closer look, an expanding world of spring life appears. Dutchman breeches, a gentle white flower, still wrapped like a mummy, closed at night, open in day. Native bees, the pollinators, cannot fly if the temperature drops below 55. As I mowed the grass here at Naka, and yes, everyone at Naka does all the work. It's all about teamwork here. Even Lisa Sweet and Lori Porter, co-owners, will pick up limbs, mow, wash dishes, whatever it takes. No one here thinks they're better than anyone else. Mowing along a creek, a close look shows a shiny bee gathering pollen, a moth hidden under a petal in a light mist, and a crab spider. Cows are grazing on the new sweet green. Ozarkians are running their tillers, churning the dirt, while watching for storm clouds and snakes. Friends, the Ozarks are for something almost lost to this fast-paced world. The pace of life here is slow. The earth sparkles with a million floral jewels. The towns, little and large, are part of these mountains. Anderson, Pineville, Goodman, Lanigan, Knoll, Rocky Comfort, Bethpage, Jane, and Powell, so very close to Big Sugar Creek and Cyclone, where Big Sugar Creek flows over the Cyclone Bridge, where Noggy would swim. These towns appear to be crumbling, but behind the 19th century facades, these tiny places guard their secrets. Secrets that I'll share with you because I've lived in many of these. Played in the creeks, knew the people, and have relatives buried in the cemeteries. Friends, people make the place, but here, the place also shapes the people. I even love the old cemeteries here. Some well kept, some abandoned. Cowan Cemetery, close to Powell, Big Sugar Creek, and Cyclone, where I have a special connection. Two of my great-great-grandfathers and one of my great-great-grandmothers are buried there. The bone-chilling stories I'll tell you in this and the next show are not about my relatives that are in Cowan Cemetery, although they suffered many hardships and tragedies of their own. These two shows are about the Mansberger family. Come with me. Something for those whose inner being seems empty, or perhaps to conduct a study of the hardships endured by the early settlers. Many of the Ozark people buried in this area over 100 years ago were remembered only by their descendants, like myself. I tried to identify as many as possible by personally going to Cowan numerous times and by research. Many in the 1800s did not purchase monuments to mark graves of their relatives. I've been aware of the Mansberger story for 20 years. I dug deep to get as many facts as possible about this tale. My relatives who fought in the Civil War are there, but many first names and dates of birth are unknown or worn away. For instance, my great-great-grandfather, Joseph Witham, whose grave says, Civil War, veteran, Company F, Illinois Infantry, born 1844, died, ? But I knew from family records that he died in March of 1917. And I know he's in row 9, plot B, Cowan Cemetery. And his grave and the Mansberger baby, row 9, plot C, are adjoined. Shortly before John C. Cowan moved to his last homestead, between Powell and Cyclone, a part of his farm was already being cleared by a former showman named Mansberger. The boundary line between the two farms was not to be settled for many years to come. Some evidence implied that Mr. Mansberger was previously connected to a traveling show. He could perform many feats with unusual ability, such as bending a horseshoe by hand, boxing or prize fighting, walking a tightrope, and many other amazing skills. A man with such ability, living in the backwoods, would suggest he wanted to give up his past and start anew. It was believed that Mr. Mansberger had a terrible temper, which often led him to grief. He cleared about 2 or 3 acres where the Cowan Peach Orchard now stands. He fenced his property with a brush fence, which proved ineffective against hogs belonging to John Cowan. The Mansburger boy found that the hogs made a hole in the fence whenever they wanted some free corn. The boy would sick his dogs on them, and one dog seemed to enjoy nipping at the pig's ears. After a sow came home with her ears bleeding, John Cowan followed his pigs to the new feed supply, and he hid near the fence. As the youngster and his dog cornered the pig, a gunshot rang out, and the dog fell dead at the boy's feet. The lad ran home. John knew Mr. Mansburger had a hot temper, so he loaded his rifle and returned to his cabin to await his neighbor's call. Soon he heard his name called from outside the cabin. He peeked out a window, and there stood Mr. Mansburger with his shotgun, with intentions of settling the argument once and for all. John opened the window, pointed his rifle, and ordered him to drop his gun, which he did when he heard John's rifle hammer click. After a few minutes, both went about their own way with the problem settled. Both men became good neighbors later. Years later, Bill Cowan decided to whip Mr. Mansburger and boasted he would leave the county if he lost the fight. The fight was so one-sided that Bill was forced to leave the county, with both eyes so badly swollen he could hardly see. 5 years later, Bill walked back in. Friends, with Naka's help, I'll finish the tale of what happened to Mr. Mansburger, his wife, and 5 children, and the hardships of that cold winter of 1885. Oh my, the hardships that our parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents endured. They must have been scared. I don't like scared. 6 months ago at my sister's home in Coy, close to Anderson, in their field by Patterson Creek, lay a young, beautiful, hungry, scared, abandoned dog. So scared he would hardly raise his head when called to. Story told that he had a brother or sister that may have been shot. My sister fed him and called him Bubba. Bubba may also carry a buckshot in his side. He's with me now. His first night, he was so scared he hid under the porch that very cold night. Hunger brought him out the next day. Bubba was very scared. As I carried him inside and fed him, Lisa Sweet, co-owner of Naka, bought him a nice toy. As I do my research for my shows, Bubba lays his head on my lap. I gently stroke Bubba's side and back. But most important, he's not scared anymore. Not scared at all. Next week, watch for the rest of the Mansburger tale. Friends, remember our CNAs. At some point in our life, CNAs will be of great importance. So let's appreciate NACA and CNAs now, as we will later. Friends, I'm out of time. Remember, Nagi always said, when you're good to others, you're best to yourself. You can reach me on Twitter at JohnWillard47. If you want me to come to your event, well, I still have my dogs. You know how that is. Remember, it's not what we gain, but what we give that measures the worth of the life we live. Until next time, friends.